This is the Barry Richards Show. WBSM On Demand.
Without further ado,
WBSM presents The Barry Richards Show. Streaming live on WBSM.com and the WBSM app. Call 508-996-0500. Text us using App Chat on the WBSM app. Now, The Barry Richards Show.
I've got to run to keep from high, and I'm bound to keep on riding. I've got one more silver dollar, but I'm not gonna let 'em catch me, no. I'm gonna let 'em catch the midnight rider.
All right, welcome back to the program. 207 on a Tuesday, 508-996-0500. And we welcome you back to the show. The clouds appear to be thickening. We got some rain moving in, as you may have understood the weather person there to say a couple of seconds ago. And I guess a little bit stormy toward the middle of the week or through the middle of the week. And it's March, right? You get, well, no, we're in April. April showers, spring May flowers. So get used to that. So Oregon has legislatively completed a full U-turn on a short-lived liberal policy that decriminalized. My brain is transfixed here on everybody being discriminated against here. And let me try it again, though, from the top. Oregon legislatively completing its U-turn on a short-lived liberal policy that decriminalized the possession of small amounts of certain drugs. It didn't take long. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek, a Democrat, has signed into law a bill that reverses Measure 110, a 2020 law that voters approved to decriminalize most illegal possession of controlled substances offenses and redirected much of the state's marijuana tax revenue to fund grants for addiction services. Around 58% of Oregon residents approved the initial measure, but since then, addiction and overdose deaths have skyrocketed in Oregon and nationwide as fentanyl swept across the country. In August, 56% of Oregonians said they disapproved the pioneering drug law, and both Republicans and Democrats introduced legislation to roll back the controversial measure. Gee, surprise, surprise, surprise. The law makes so-called personal use possession a misdemeanor punishable by up to 6 months in jail. It enables police to confiscate the drugs and crack down on the use of those drugs on sidewalks and parks. It also establishes ways for treatment to be offered as an alternative to criminal penalties by encouraging law enforcement agencies to create deflection programs that would divert people to addiction and mental health services instead of the criminal justice system that changes. The changes will take effect on September 1st. Now, remember, a couple of days ago, I don't know, you might have been listening, I had a caller who called in because we were talking about Governor Youngkin in Virginia vetoed a bill that would have decriminalized marijuana in Virginia. You know, it's decriminalized here and several other states in the country as well. And Youngkin got a bill to his desk that would decriminalize marijuana there, and he vetoed it. And his veto message simply stated that, look, this is a dangerous drug, and it is harmful to people's health. And we have seen we have seen crime go up. We've seen accidents go up. We've seen people's health deteriorate in states where marijuana has been made legal or decriminalized. And so he said, this isn't for me. This isn't for Virginia. And he vetoed it. And we had a gentleman call in to talk about his right to, a right to access marijuana if he chooses to. And the government shouldn't have a right to interfere with that. And there's a much larger picture, because the same gentleman called in the first hour today. He's talking about your right to be able to walk off the floor in protest of the national anthem and so on and so forth. And I made the point, tried to make the point several times. I'm not sure if he was listening, because sometimes he doesn't. that you don't have a guaranteed First Amendment right in this country. The First Amendment sounds wonderful, and it does protect your right to free speech in most occasions, but it is not a guaranteed right, and sometimes you don't have a right. You don't have a right. You know, we kind of tease in the opening here, to call in now and use your First Amendment right. You don't have a First Amendment right to call here. You may be shocked to learn that, but you don't have a First Amendment right here. We have been granted permission by the government to use this airspace. We determine who calls. We determine how long they stay on the air. We determine what topics they talk about. I'm pretty flexible. Most of my hosts and colleagues here are as well, fellow hosts. We're pretty flexible. If you want to talk about an issue, yeah, we'll talk about it for the most part. But we generally have guidelines in terms of how much time you have. We move conversations along sometimes in order to allow more people to get involved. There are a lot of calls on the line and so on and so forth. But you don't have an absolute guaranteed First Amendment right to call the radio station. It is government airwaves. Yes, it is. But we are licensed to control those airwaves. And that's just the way it works. And he mentioned that LSU, the school with this walk-off, or actually it wasn't even a walk-off. They didn't walk off. They just didn't come out of the locker room for the national anthem. The girls' basketball team, I guess it was. And, well, you have a right to do that. And you have a right to protest because it's a government school. It's a public. Well, that's not necessarily so either. Again, I don't know the rules about LSU, and I quite frankly don't give a damn. Anybody who's that ignorant that wants to stay in the locker room while the national anthem is on, I don't think a whole lot about them. So, but you don't have guaranteed First Amendment rights in this country. We probably have more freedom than anywhere else, but you don't have a solid, clear license to do whatever you want to do and whenever you want to do it. It just doesn't work that way. You cannot yell hijack on a crowded plane. You can't go into a school classroom and yell fire, or a movie theater, as the old saying used to go. You can't do that. Because there are laws that protect that, because other people have rights too. So because you have a First Amendment right, doesn't give you a right to create chaos. And this is the case with Oregon. Took kind of a long way to get there, but this is what was going on with Oregon. So that caller or some other caller, some people might think that, well, hey, I have a First Amendment right to go out and buy drugs and use them as I choose to. That's my right to do self-determination, whether or not I want to use drugs. I have a right to do that. And the government doesn't have a right to tell me I can't do that. Well, the government has a right to regulate chaos in our society. Government has a right to regulate chaos. If everybody had a right to do whatever they wanted to do, whenever they wanted to do it, or say whatever they wanted to, whenever they wanted to say it under the guise of their First Amendment right, just think of the chaos that would ensue in our city here, in New Bedford. I'm in the town of Fairhaven, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, or anywhere for that matter. You don't have a right to do that. Look at the gentleman, the Gold Star father, who was arrested at the Capitol, U.S. Capitol, a few weeks ago during Biden's State of the Union speech. He got up and he yelled at Biden. Secret Service grabbed him, arrested him, charged him, and hauled him out of there. You don't have a right to do that. I mean, somebody who thinks they have under the First Amendment that they have the ultimate right to do whatever it is they choose to do. No, you don't. You don't. There are rules that govern in order to keep chaos from ensuing in society. When you have chaos in society, your society collapses. You need to have restrictions and you need to have laws. Now, again, we may have a First Amendment in this country that guarantees you freedom of speech, but not always. Because the rest of society has a right to be protected from chaos. And that's what ensues when you pass laws, as they did in Oregon in 2020, giving everybody the right to just use whatever drugs whenever they want to. And just say, hey, people have a right to make decisions for themselves. And you see the results of that. I mean, there is hardly a more liberal place on the planet than Oregon. And 2 years into this 4 years, I guess, about three, just over 3 years into this experiment, they've reversed it. The same liberal Democrat people who supported this, who passed the law, who signed the law, have now reversed it. Say, nope, sorry, it didn't work, because that's chaos. And you cannot have chaos and have a civilized society at the same time. So there are rules. Now, again, to go back to the caller in the first hour, I don't know what the rules are at LSU. The coach of the girls' basketball team or the women's basketball team says she didn't even notice that the players came out. First of all, I think that's a lie. She didn't notice that they didn't come out for the national anthem. I call her out on that. I think she's a liar. Because any coach knows exactly what's going on with the team at every moment and knows that when the national anthem is playing, the team should be there on the floor. So if the coach is trying to tell us that she didn't even realize the team wasn't there for the national anthem, I call her out. I say that's bull. I think the coach should make sure that the team is out there on the floor. Because, again, when you are a member of the LSU girls basketball, women's basketball team, you are representing the university. You are representing the school, the state, the taxpayers. You're not there representing yourself in your own selfish self-interests. You are there representing a whole lot of other people. When students begin to behave in a way that suits their fancy, but is chaotic and can create chaos, that's no good for the society at the school. So the school wants a society that is chaos-free, right? They don't want students calling the shots about what's going to go on during the national anthem. That's school policy, or it should be anyway, if it's not. Now, for the coach not to make sure that your team is not towing the line when that national anthem plays, that comes down to the coach. And I said earlier that the team should have sat the bench. I would have benched the team, even if it meant forfeiting the game. Look, they lost the game anyway. For all of their protesting, they lost the game anyway. So I would have sanctioned the team, and they would have sat down. And the towel boys or towel girls or the people who wipe the sweat off of the floor, they would have played. It would have been put on some trunks. You're playing tonight. Here's your chance. And if the coach of the girls or women's college basketball team doesn't know where the team is during the national anthem, she should have been benched. And she should be replaced. To me, it's as simple as that. I don't know what you think about it. You know, we went through all of this with the national anthem with Colin Kaepernick and all of that kind of crap. And, I've got a right. You know what? Your right means nothing to me. It means nothing to me. It means nothing at all. I've got family members. You've got family members, maybe you, that went and defended your country. I worry a little bit more about your right and the right of this, the respect of the flag and the respect of our veterans and so on and so forth than I do about whatever little gripe Colin Kaepernick's got, or any one of the other players that wants to walk off the field, not show up for the national anthem or whatever. You want to do that stuff, do it on your own time. You know, here's the problem. The National Football League actually does. Many of the teams do have policies about this, but they didn't want to enforce them because what matters more to the team owners is the almighty dollar. And you take a football player or a baseball player that's earning millions of dollars a year, and this is a multi-billion-dollar business, right? The NFL, the Major League Baseball, whatever, the multi-million-dollar business. So you run the risk of losing money. Not only for your league, but for your team and for you. So you're willing to accept a lot of crap to put these high-priced athletes on the field. And not enforce your own rules. So it's a matter of courage and a lack thereof on the part of a lot of these coaches and on the part of a lot of these team owners and so on and so forth. But the rules need to be enforced. Whatever the rules are, they need to be enforced. Again, I could give a damn what Colin Kaepernick thinks about the flag. But Colin Kaepernick should have been made to be out there on his feet during the national anthem. And I don't think his right supersedes the rights of everybody else on that team. And that's my view on it. Quick break. We're going to come back for yours next, right here on W.
All my friends know the low rider. The low rider is a little higher.
All right, 2:25 on a Tuesday afternoon. 508-996-0500 is our number. So it appears as though the No Labels group, the Never Trumpers, you're trying to find somebody to run against Trump for the Republican nomination, or maybe find somebody to run as an independent in the upcoming presidential election. No luck. And I guess they've given up at this point. They tried to get Nikki Haley, and Nikki Haley says, "Nope, I'm a Republican. I'm not an independent, so I'm not your candidate." Then they courted Chris Christie, and Chris Christie has now turned them down. Imagine, why would you even want Chris Christie? I mean, Chris Christie polled at what, like 2%? Why would you think that he would do any better as an independent, no names candidate? Chris Christie's ship came and sailed a long time ago. I liked Chris Christie when, before Bridgegate and all of that kind of stuff. I thought Chris Christie was kind of a breath of fresh air. Then he got a little bit too arrogant, too full of himself. But this was before we began hearing from Donald Trump anyway. What I liked about him was his forthright way of communicating. And then Donald Trump came down the escalator and it was all over. So anyway, Chris Christie has turned down an offer to run for president on a No Labels ticket. The No Labels group has struggled to put forward a ticket challenging both Trump and Biden this fall. The group contacted Christie about a potential run after he appeared to leave the door open to a third-party run. I appreciate the encouragement I've gotten to pursue a third-party candidacy. I believe we need a country that once again feels like everyone has a stake in what we're doing, and leadership that strives to bring people together instead of using anger to divide us, Christie said in a statement. Would you vote for Christie? I mean, I just... People didn't vote for him when they had a chance to. He didn't do well. Trump is going to be holding a rally in a matter of minutes. Trump is going to be speaking about the border crisis. He's going to be calling it the bloodbath at the border. Okay. I think he's in Michigan. He's going to be making a speech. Fox News dug up I saw it earlier, some videotape of Joe Biden. It's available on YouTube. You can find it right there. And I've often mentioned, in fact, I think I've even played some of Bill Clinton, Hillary, John Kerry, Chuck Schumer, Biden, all of these people that were all for a border wall until Trump made it the centerpiece of his campaign. Then all of a sudden nobody wanted a border wall anymore. But Fox was playing tape from Biden. I'm sure they'll play it again this afternoon when he was in favor of a border wall. But anyway, so Trump is going to talk about the border at 2:30. And I'm sure he's going to have something to say about the comments from Mexico President Obrador. Did you hear about this? It was either late last week or early this week, where Obrador said that for the right amount of money, he could stop the border crisis by stopping migrants from coming through Mexico into the United States. Is it $20 million? Or it must have been $20 million, I guess. But he also went a step further and said the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore shows that migrants go out and do risky jobs at midnight. And as a result, they do not deserve to be treated as they are by certain insensitive, irresponsible politicians in the United States. Gee, who is he talking about there? Who do you think? Obrador made the remark as the bodies were being hauled out of the drink after the bridge collapse. One of them was, at least one was from Mexico, there was Honduras, and I don't know, a couple of others anyway. And based on the conditions, we're now moving from a recovery mode to a salvage operation because of the superstructure surrounding what we believe are the vehicles and the amount of concrete and debris. Divers were no longer able to safely navigate or operate around that in the area around the wreckage. That was the state police remarks last week. And that didn't set well with President Obrador, because there were some Hispanics and potentially some Mexicans in the bottom of that wreck. It's Guatemalan, too, that was recovered in the water. So insensitive politicians like Trump are the reason why Mexicans are working on bridges, filling potholes in the middle of the night, and why they died in the bridge collapse. But anyway, Obrador, as I was indicating, said for $20 billion, he would stop the flow of migrants into the country. And Trump responded to that and said, I wouldn't give him 10 cents. The comments from Obrador were made during an interview with 60 Minutes on CBS. Sharon Alfonso. Obrador told her, we're not going to shut down our border until you change your policy on Cuba and change your policy on Venezuela. Is it okay for the Mexican president to dictate American policy? Brian Kilmeade on Fox asked Donald Trump when Trump appeared on the network following Obrador's comments. Trump said, well, he said much more than that. He said he wants $10 billion essentially just to talk. $10 billion to talk, and that's come out since. And no, that wouldn't happen with me, with the wall. What change, Kilmeade followed up with? It's very simple, lack of respect for the president. They would never say that to me. They would never say that before we talk. They want $10 billion a year. Mexico just asked for $10 billion a year. They would never ask it. I wouldn't give 10 cents, Trump said. During the 60 Minutes interview, Obrador doubled down on his demands previously made in January to the Biden administration in exchange for support from the Mexican government that to halt the surge of illegal immigrants, among them lifting sanctions on Cuba and Venezuela, sending Latin American and Caribbean countries $20 billion in aid a year, and granting legal status to Mexican illegal immigrants in the U.S. And Obrador says the flow of migrants will continue unless the U.S. meets its demands. So we'll see what Trump says about the border and about Mexico coming up in his speech. And I guess it's a speech. It's a campaign event in just a little bit. Record numbers of immigrants pouring into this country. We're paying for them. They're coming to Massachusetts. Huge numbers. We're giving away shelter at the old soldiers' home in Chelsea that once we made veterans pay to use. And we're giving it away to the illegal immigrants for free and providing them with food and medical and everything else, lawyers. And we made our veterans pay for that same space. State says, well, we got a good handle on our the veteran situation in the state. Joe Battenfield, who writes opinion pieces for the Boston Herald, says, well, not really, because just on one night alone last year, there were 500 homeless veterans on the streets of Massachusetts. So it doesn't sound like you got such a great handle on the situation. So we now have a conference committee of members of the House and the Senate. They're going to sit and try to work out a spending plan. Where does the money come from, and exactly how much money do we spend on shelters? Maura Healey says it's going to cost us $1 billion this fiscal year and $1 billion next fiscal year. So the money that we've got now is about to run out this month. We need more money. We are running serious deficits in this state right now. And they're looking for $1 billion this fiscal year and $1 billion next fiscal year to pay for illegal immigrants, shelters, food, medical. Well, as Battenfield points out, we had 500 homeless veterans on the street. Now we're taking away the veterans' shelter. We closed it in December, and now we're taking it away. The House of Representatives wants to cough up $245 million for the balance of this fiscal year to deal with this problem. $245 million to deal with this problem. Just this fiscal year. The fiscal year ends on the last day of June. It's already the second day of April. And then they need another $1 billion for next fiscal year. The state Senate wants to take $863 million from a state rainy day account, a bank account essentially, drain the bank account. $860 million. You may as well say $1 billion, right? Just take the money and plug the holes, pay for the shelters. People resent this stuff. People resent this, and I think the Democrats are going to pay hugely at the polls this November. They should anyway. I mean, logic tells me that they will. They certainly should. Whether they do or not, I guess that's a whole other story. But we're going to see, aren't we? I mean, my God, I never thought that I would reminisce for the days of Charlie Baker. The good old days of Charlie Baker, when Massachusetts was running surpluses. As a matter of fact, we had such a big surplus, and the greedy little legislators, old Democrats, of course, trying to figure out ways to spend it all. They had a shopping list as long as your leg for things they wanted to buy with it. Others, and then Baker said, "Well, wait a minute, state law. Remember this? 87? We got to give money back to the taxpayers under this law. $3 trillion? It's a lot of money, yeah. Went back to the taxpayers. Everybody got their checks in the mail. Democrats on Beacon Hill were depressed. They couldn't spend that money on frivolous, foolish things like lowering oceans and more seawalls and climate change initiatives, or little contracts, actually, little corrupt payouts to friends. Because that's what they do. Take a little small amounts for these grants. They're not going to do anything. $47,000 climate change grant. What are you going to do with the $47,000? You're going to change the way the climate works for $47,000. We're going to award this to New Bedford to do a study. Ooh, that means somebody who's politically connected just made $47,000. They couldn't do that because the law said they had to give the money back. Those are the good old days. Just a couple of years ago. And now here we are with unbelievable deficits. Because we're looking at making potentially some very deep cuts and canceling programs, maybe local aid, aid to, maybe public safety and education, roads, all of these things, so that we can pay for illegal immigrants. And again, you can't blame, certainly the Biden administration is culpable in this whole thing. There's no question. They opened the door and left it open. But again, Maura Healey made it clear in 2019 when she went south of the border. Well, Donald Trump and Sheriff Tom Hodgson were on the border trying to figure out a way to close the border and to, complete the wall. Maura Healey went to Tijuana, Mexico to invite illegals into, well, they weren't illegal then, but she invited them to become illegal. And migrants to come to the United States and come up to Massachusetts. So this has been on her plate for years, long before Biden was even thought about as a presidential candidate. This has been Maura Healey's, one of her big agenda items forever. She makes no bones about it either. I mean, this is something she wants to do. There's no talk about ending or in any way altering the right to shelter law. None. All she's yelling about is she wants more money from Washington to pay for all these people. But change the rules, change the law. No, taxpayers will pay for it. 508-996-0500. You're up next on WBSM. Good afternoon.
Hi, Barry.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
I said hello.
Hello. Are you there?
Hello. I am. Are you? Push the right button.
Yes, it is. What can I do for you, sir?
I got a question. What did you think of...
You got to turn your radio down in the background because you're hearing your radio and it's on a delay. Can you turn the radio off?
You're not on...
You got to turn your radio off in the back.
Huh?
What can I do for you,
Call
sir?
you back.
What can I do for
Call
you?
you back.
No, you just tell me what you want. Come on.
I want to know what you thought of Donald Trump retweeting the picture of Biden bound in the back of the pickup truck.
Donald Trump retweeting the picture of Biden doing what?
And on the back of the pickup truck, bound and gagged.
I don't know. I don't know anything about it. You got me flat-footed here. I don't know. I haven't seen the picture. I don't know
You
anything
don't
about
know anything. Huh?
I don't know anything about it. I have not seen the picture. This is the first that I've even heard about it.
Are you serious?
So I guess the short answer is I don't think much of it because I haven't seen it. I wouldn't have even known about it unless you just told me about it.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you go to look it up?
I really don't care about
Breitbart.
it. I don't care.
Huh?
It doesn't mean
You
anything to me.
care.
I don't care.
But you care. You care about him recognizing Transgender Day on Easter.
What does one have to do with the other?
At the same time, Barry.
What does one have to do with the other?
You make a big stink over.
What does one have to do with the other? Trump retweeting a picture versus Biden insulting Christians all across the country.
The president of the United States.
Were you offended by that picture?
Absolutely.
Were you offended by Biden hijacking your Easter?
No, I wasn't.
Now, okay, figures. 508-996-0500. Thank you, my friend. 508-996-0500 is the number. You're up next on WBSM. Good afternoon. Hello?
Is that me?
Yes.
Hey, Barry. No, I was the guy talking about that, the picture of Biden on the tailgate. That's the newest thing that all the Democrats are saying. So what happened was he tweeted it was like a 40-second clip of, like a Trump train, all the trucks driving around.
Okay.
And it's a rainy day, and it was the whole, train of cars. You had to pause the video and really zoom in to find that one car that had, the picture of it. It was on a tailgate of it. Looks like Biden, tied up in the back of the pickup truck. And so that's what they did. They zoomed
Did this
in on
just happen?
It was like yesterday or the day before.
Wow. Because I haven't seen it. I pride myself that I scan just about every news site that I can find every night and every morning, and I didn't even see that anywhere.
Yeah, but it's equivalent of, the bloodbath a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
That's what it is. It's like they pick out this one thing and blow it way out of context. But yeah, it's like the people at TDS, they call it and ask what you think about it. So that's what it is.
All right. So the fact that they, these people call, Joe Biden wanted to take Donald Trump behind the schoolhouse and beat him up and all this kind of stuff. That's okay. But Trump reshares a picture and that's cause for such alarm. That gentleman that just called in, he sounded like an older guy.
Those are the easiest ones to trick. You show them that one clip and they think it really.
I wish I could have had a conversation with him because it really wasn't a conversation. He couldn't understand what I was saying, and I was having a tough time following him. But he seemed to be really upset by that, and you got to wonder why. Why would any rational person be all that upset by something like that?
I don't know. That's what MSNBC and CNN. That's the goal.
Oh, that's what it does to you. Yeah. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Thanks for filling me in on what's going on because I really had no clue. I hadn't heard about that. And again, I mean, I do a fairly good job of scanning all the news sources, and that one got by me. But let me do the break. We'll come right back for your call. Stay ready.
No time left for you. On my way to better things. I found myself some ways. No time left for you. Distant roads are calling me.
All right, welcome back to the program 249 on a Tuesday afternoon, 508-996-0500. You are next in WBSM. Thanks for hanging on.
Hi, Barry. I have a question I don't know the answer to, but is there like a system, like, because I'm getting worried about like the cheating and everything else with the ballots. Now, let's say you have, 1,000 ballots and you're going to send them out to 10 polling places. So you have a sign-off sheet. I'm giving you 100 ballots. You're taking them to, this location. So then that person signs off when they get there that they got 100 ballots. And then when it comes back, it should reconcile. Like there should be, let's say there's 90 of them in the box. That means that you should be passing me 10 that weren't used. So that accounts for the 100. So do they have that kind of stuff in place? Because I would think with that in place, that should help, deter. Yeah. Oh, all of a sudden we found 50 more ballots. It's
right.
You only had 100. How do you now have 150?
Exactly. Well, you know what? All elections are run by states and local communities. Okay, so there's no federal guidelines.
I know it's different in every state. Yeah.
And every state, every county, and every community has different rules for going on. I've got to assume, and this is just an assumption, and what happens when you assume things, right? But I've got to assume there is a check and balance in place. Although I got to tell you, I was totally shocked at the last election in New Bedford when they opened the polls up at that precinct in the North End and there were no Republican ballots there and that nobody noticed.
I know.
It.
I mean, the people sitting at the table, like the two people that sit there at the table to check you in with all the
well, I would think that the way the system works is that the night before, the ballots are counted, put in the box that's going up to the North End precinct, and then when they get that box in the morning, those ballots are counted again to match against the number. But apparently nobody did that because if they had, they would have realized there were no Republican ballots, right?
Well, they should have realized when you're sitting there at the table, because usually the ballots are sitting right there on the table. There's the red one and the blue one.
Yeah.
Now, if you only have red, that's a problem.
Yeah, duh. Hello, Houston.
Colorblind. Unless they're colorblind. I mean, I don't know. But.
Yeah, but still you should have more than one stack, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So no, I share your concern. I'm very worried about election. It is so funny how when Trump first talked about the possibility of the election being stolen back in 2015. I can remember the schmarky remarks from Obama. There's no election fraud. And then Trump won, and everybody was, election fraud. Vladimir Putin took the election. All of a sudden, it was election fraud. And then when Trump came out in 2020 and said, hey, look, there was fraud, back again. Nope, the system is that there's no election fraud. And then you see what happened in New Bedford, just a small little community like this, and they're sitting at the table for over an hour before they realized there were no Republican ballots. How does that happen?
Well, the difference, though, I see with some different things is like that was obviously a huge mistake made there. I don't really believe that anything was done intentionally with that. I just don't. I just think that... Well,
I don't think it was done intentionally either, but, you got one job. Right? One day a year, it's election day. So your job
is... We
have
checks and balances, and that's why I was wondering, are they not in place?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't... Or they're not being used. I don't know. But if anything, again, it's a learning moment, I guess, because whoever is running the elections and stuff like that, will now fix that, so they will probably put a check and balance in there. So now that should never happen again.
Well, no, and your question is well taken. So you send 100 ballots to the precinct, 70 ballots are cast. Who checks to make sure there are 30 ballots blank that are returning? And,
That's right.
And does that
That's what I wanna
exactly
know.
happen? And I'll tell you what, my faith was rattled in the system. And by the way, I'm still waiting for Mayor Mitchell, who after that election was over, that was what, March 1st? And we're somewhere around there when we had our primary. And here we are a month later. We still don't have a report on what happened and what's going to happen as a result of that.
Yeah. And you know, it's just, I don't know. It's just weird. I just think that, you know, that these things should be in place so that things like this don't happen. Because somehow, some way, they will not allow us to have an ID because it's so, racial or whatever. It's unfair.
Disenfranchising poor people and handicapped people and all that kind of stuff.
All lies, you know.
Absolutely. Good question. I appreciate it. And we need to keep talking about those issues because we got to hold these people accountable and make sure that the system is you know, it wasn't all that long ago. Nobody paid attention to these things. Now we do pay attention. So when something like what happened in the North End happens, immediately people sit up and say, well, what's going on here? And we should be doing that. We should be doing more of that. And unfortunately, we have to, but we should be doing more of it. Thank you for the call. Good call. I got to hit a break. We'll come in. All right, welcome back to the program. It is 2:58. Let's see if we can grab one more quick call before we go. We're just going to grab it on the fly. You're next in WBSM. You get the last word.
Hey, Barry. I just hope that we're talking about voting. I hope that you go out to the town of Dartmouth because we got an important election like today.
Yeah, I'm stopping on my way home. I haven't had a chance to vote yet, but I will on the way home. Yep.
Oh, please do because I think school committee is crucial.
Yes, I do too.
Yep. And we have a good guy running right now. It's very important that this gentleman gets in because the other one is everything that we're against.
Yeah.
So I hope the voters remember that.
Yeah.
This is where it counts, local politics. We have some good candidates right now that can really help out the town. And we have some that we have to be very careful. We cannot let these people in.
No, I agree with you 100%. And I mean, this is the grassroots, and this is where it all begins. And this is, I agree with you. I think it's an important race in Dartmouth today, and I do plan to stop on my way home. I got a couple of things to do, but that's one of them. That's right there on my list. Probably the last thing I do before I get home. And
Good.
And hope everything turns out. How was the turnout when you went?
Well, when I went earlier in the day, it was like 261. But that's the thing, Barry. It's local. People don't pay attention. Like, there's some candidates I did not do the research, so I left it blank. But the people that I did, there are 3 or 4 people that I was really interested in that I voted in. And I won't say because I don't want to sway people's vote either way. That's your privacy and that's your right. But I will mention school committee. And there's a serious contrast between the woman who wants it and the gentleman. And everything that we talk about is what she represents that we don't want. And that's a fact. The equality, the equity, all that crap, and everything else that goes with it.
It's all on the ballot, literally, in Dartmouth today. Thanks, Paul. I got to hold you there. I got to hit the news.